Welcome everybody to another episode of Fins Nation. I'm your host, Louis Sung, and today we're going to be discussing who I think the Miami Dolphins are actually going to put on their roster, and we're going to go ahead and start just with the offensive side of the ball. We'll get into the defensive side of the ball tomorrow, but for right now I want to focus strictly on the offense. Now, I know what everybody's thinking. Isn't it a little bit too early to be predicting what the final roster is going to be? We haven't even started OTAs yet. Yes, you're right, absolutely. And you know what? We're going to do it anyway because that's what we do in the offseason, right? We like to speculate, we like to pretend, we like to see what we see on the roster and be like, this probably is the guy who's going to make the team based on what we have on projections and things like that. That's how everybody does it. So we're going to go ahead and do it too. But before that, really quick, before we get into all that, just want to go ahead and mention that this show, as always, is brought to you by our good friends over at You Brake Wheel Fix. You Brake Wheel Fix is the complete automotive wheel solution. Ever parked too close to the sidewalk curb? You Brake Wheel Fix specializes in the repair of damaged wheels from bends, cracks, or curb rash. Or maybe your wheels are faded or peeling? You don't need to replace them, as You Brake Wheel Fix can refinish them to like new. Offering complete refinish options through powder coating, machining, and polishing, You Brake Wheel Fix is the answer to all of your wheel needs. And if you're just looking to give your ride a new look, You Brake Wheel Fix also offers many car customizing options, such as new custom wheels and tires from your favorite brands, performance upgrades, window tinting, and suspension modifications. Located just south of Aventura, you can reach Mark and his staff at 305-748-0112 or online at youbrakewheelfix.com. They are really active on all social media platforms at YouBrakeWheelFix, so shoot them a DM on Instagram, Facebook, or Twitter and get an estimate in just minutes. So don't delay, go to YouBrakeWheelFix and start customizing your ride to show off your Dolphins fandom today. This show is also brought to you by PrizePicks.com. PrizePicks.com is a revolutionary fantasy platform where you can now pick up to 6 different players across professional sports leagues. Whether that's the NFL, the NBA, the MLB, the NHL, one of each, it's totally up to you to decide. All you have to do is choose whether your chosen player will get more or less than their projected stat. They give you free squares, they give you special Taco Tuesday promos, Flex Friday specials, so where you can get your money back if you lose or multiply the amount of money you can normally win. With offers like that, it's hard to justify not signing up if you're any kind of a fantasy sports fan. So use the promo code 5, that's FIVE, and they will match up to $100 on your initial deposit when you sign up. Again, that's promo code 5, FIVE. Use that promo code, deposit $100 when you sign up, and they will give you $100 of their dollars absolutely free for you to play with right off the bat. So don't delay, go to prizepicks.com and get started winning today. All right, folks, so let's get into it. The offensive side of the Miami Dolphins 53-man roster as I see it right now. Now, I'm going to go ahead and just say it right up front. I believe that this roster is nowhere near completion. I think that once June 1st rolls around and the Byron Jones money comes rolling in, I think the Miami Dolphins are going to make a couple of more big signings. I think that Dalvin Cook is still probably going to show up in Miami all of a sudden. Like, I know I said that after the draft, the Devon Achane thing just kind of ruins the whole Dalvin Cook discussion. But no. That doesn't seem to be happening. In fact, it seems to be heating up more than ever. So quite frankly, at this point, I'm now completely doing a 180, and I'm thinking that Dalvin Cook is all but guaranteed to show up in Miami. If he really wants to come to the Dolphins and the Vikings don't really want him, I figure, you know what? For both sides, it's best if they just go ahead and send him to Miami and make it happen. And once that post-June 1st money starts rolling in from Byron Jones, they're going to be able to give Dalvin Cook whatever it is he needs to be happy, and everybody's going to be happy with the Miami Dolphins fans. Everybody out there is going to have a superstar running back. Yes, he's injured a lot of the time, but you know what? Even when he's injured, even when his shoulder is not working properly, he still runs for 1,000 yards, and Dalvin Cook has not even hit 30 yet, so I am all for the Dalvin Cook train. Just sign me up, ladies and gentlemen, because I think that him being there would add a whole new dimension to this offense. Not because he does anything particularly special that other running backs can't, but simply because other teams respect the hell out of Dalvin Cook just because he is Dalvin Cook. So that will make things even easier for Tua Tagovailoa to be able to make this offense run. So, just for the sake of this argument, though, I have to pick the players that are already on the Miami Dolphins, so we're going to go ahead and base it off of that. So, what am I going to do for the 53-man roster? First of all, on the offensive side of the ball, we're going to have, obviously, 3 quarterbacks. And those 3 quarterbacks are going to be 3 of the 27 total offensive players that I think the Dolphins are going to have. Yes, I am actually skewing it in favor of the defense because I think that Vic Fangio is going to realize that he needs more players than Mike McDaniel does. For whatever reason, the defense is just snake bit when it comes to injuries. So I think that they're going to try to overcompensate on that. But for right now, let's go ahead and focus on the quarterbacks. So obviously, 3 quarterbacks. Tua Tagovailoa is the first one that we're going to talk about. There's not much really to say at this point that I haven't already said. Tua Tagovailoa is, quite frankly, at least a top 10 quarterback when he's healthy. He has the ability to pick apart defenses. When he finds his weapons, he's able to make some amazing things happen. And anybody who says that, oh, he's just a yards after the catch merchant, no. Again, look at the numbers from last year. Tua Tagovailoa had some of the least yards after the catch out of the entire NFL because most of the yards were gained through the air. So he was throwing it to them and they would get tackled immediately. So there you go. I don't want to hear anything about yards after the catch or anything along those lines ever again. Tua can play whatever game he wants, and it's just a matter of wanting to and what the play is designed to do. So once again, Tua's the guy. I'm very happy that he's the guy. He could potentially be the next the Dolphins starting quarterback for the next 10 years if he's given the opportunity. If he can just manage to stay healthy just a little bit, like even if he only misses 2 or 3 games, the Miami Dolphins are not only going to go to the playoffs, I think that they would have a really good shot at competing in these playoffs and maybe even making an AFC championship game, if not the Super Bowl. That's how much I believe in these Dolphins right now and how much work they're putting into putting the best roster possible out there. So that's my piece on Tua. And by the way, for anybody who was watching Good Morning Football and all that wonderful stuff, Kyle Brandt giving his idea of what the tier list of quarterbacks are in the AFC, having Tua as tier 6 underneath Jimmy Garoppolo, who was somehow all in his own little world, that's disrespectful to the nth degree, and I hope somebody calls him out on the carpet for it because that's just beyond ridiculous. Like, you're basically saying that Tua's trash. I think everybody is still trying to hold on to hope that they were still right about their initial evaluations about Tua. They're still holding on to hope that maybe, just maybe, the fact that he's going to be injured or supposedly going to be injured next season in some way, shape, or form will justify their lack of faith in him. So I think they're wrong. I think that Tua will manage to stay healthy for the majority of the season. If he ends up missing 2 or 3 games because he got banged up a little bit, I'm not going to hold that against him. Only, like, what was it? I think the number was 3 quarterbacks total that managed to play the entirety of 2022. 3 out of all those starting quarterbacks manages to stay healthy. Nah. I'm not holding it against Tua if he misses 2 or 3 games. Now, if he misses half the season or 3/4 of the season or the whole season due to some injury, well, then maybe we can have that discussion. But right now, I'm not going to assume the worst because every time you assume the worst, you're just never going to be able to enjoy the season as it is. So that's Tua. Mike White being the backup is an obvious one. He can hold down the fort if needed for 2 or 3 games. We saw what he could do with the New York Jets and those lack of weapons over there. Yes, Garrett Wilson was there. Yes, Corey Davis was there. Yes, he had a pretty good running back for a little while. But you know what? It still wasn't the best situation for the New York Jets on offense, and so I'm going to give Mike White a little bit of credit. He's back home in Miami where he wants to be. He was a fan of the Miami Dolphins growing up, and now he gets to play with his hometown team. I think Mike White as a backup is a solid choice, certainly more solid than Teddy Bridgewater, who doesn't look like he actually wanted to be there. At least Mike White, I know, will put forth some effort. And then, of course, the third quarterback. Normally, lately, we seem to be going back in time. I remember whenever I play NFL 2K, and it was the norm for quarterbacks to be coming in groups of 3. And then later down the line, it started to be only 2 quarterbacks. You would just need a starter and a backup. And now we seem to be going back to the world of 3 quarterbacks. And based out for last year, I can't blame them because every time something happened to Tua, then Teddy Bridgewater would come in, and then he would get hurt, or allegedly hurt anyway, and Skylar Thompson would have to come in. And then Skylar would start the game, and then he would get hurt, and then Teddy has to come in. And then Tua comes back, and then Teddy has to come in. And then Teddy gets hurt, and Skylar has to come back in again. And then Skylar has to start a playoff game. And it's just, horrible. So we can't take any chances. 3 quarterbacks for the Miami Dolphins. And Skylar Thompson, I think he's earned the right to give it another shot. Who knows? Maybe he will be the backup one day. So that takes care of quarterback. Going up to the running back position, I think the Miami Dolphins are going to carry 5 of them. Now, again, I have to base this off of the fact that these guys are already on the roster. Dalvin Cook is not going to be on this list until further notice. So here we go. As of right now, based on what is on the roster, I have 5 running backs. First one is Raheem Mostert. Again, he almost ran for 1,000 yards last season. They would have if they hadn't failed to run the ball more often. He was actually speaking to the media not too long ago, and he basically promised that whatever happened last year where they wouldn't run the ball, that's not going to happen again. So he's basically guaranteeing, guess what? The Miami Dolphins will be running the football more in 2023, which I am all for. Take some of the pressure off of Tua to make it so that he doesn't have to be so perfect in order for the offense to function. Not that I don't think he can do it, but I just feel like it's not necessary for you to put all the pressure on the quarterback. Give your guy some help with the running game. Bringing back Jeff Wilson, who also did a fairly decent job. He did leave some plays out on the field. He wasn't as great as we were hoping when he did the transition from San Francisco to Miami, but I think that will change after another year in this particular system. There's always going to be a few tweaks here and there. It's not exactly the same scheme, but it's mostly the same scheme, and Jeff Wilson did find success with it in San Francisco. So I do think that Jeff Wilson will find some more success with Mike McDaniel running the show here in Miami in year 2. No surprise with this one here, Devon Achane. You don't draft a guy with the 84th overall pick and then see Mike McDaniel pump his fist in happiness and then get all on the phone with him and say, hey, you're still fast, right, kid? Oh, yeah, coach, I'm fast. Good, because we're going to use it. It's obvious that Devon Achane is going to make this roster from the get-go. He would have to be absolutely horrible in training camp and OTAs and just completely fall flat on his face in order for him to not make the team. And I'm very excited about this. I do believe that he can have a very Darren Sproles-esque role in this offense, catching passes out of the backfield, just using his raw speed to make other teams miserable. I'm looking forward to seeing that. I do believe that Safan Ahmed will make this team. I think that he's proven that he can get the job done if worse comes to worse, because even though you have Devon Achane right now, you still have Raheem Mostert and Jeff Wilson. If something happens to either of those guys, you're going to need some extra help, and Safan Ahmed can provide that very well. He's proven that he can, and thankfully, Myles Gaskin is the odd man out. I love the dude for his effort. I really, really do. It's nothing against him personally. I just think that there's more talent on this team that deserves to have a shot over Myles Gaskin at this point. And so what does that mean for running back 5? Who's running back 5? I just said that Dalvin Cook is not on this team, and if I just kicked out Myles Gaskin to the curb, well, then who's number 5? Alec Ingold. Yeah, he's a fullback, but you know what? He's going to be in that running back category. So Alec Ingold is a no-brainer. He's going to be on the team. He proved why he should be on the team last season. Everybody loved watching him block and make a few plays out of the backfield. The dude played with a club on his hand, and he was shocked when Skylar Thompson threw the football. But you know what? He still tried to catch it anyway. And so I give this guy all the credit in the world. For a fullback, he's probably one of the most fun players that I've watched in a very long time. I love having fullbacks on the team. I love that they just bring this little last piece of oomph that's missing on a roster. I remember when Lusaka Polite was playing. I loved Lusaka Polite. I remember when Jaworski Lane was playing. I loved Jaworski Lane. It was so much fun. Whenever he got the ball, it was just like, yeah, let's get that 1 yard that we needed. And he almost never failed. Never. I miss Lusaka Polite so much. So Alec Ingold being on the roster, again, a no-brainer. I think it's going to be guaranteed at this point. So running back 5, Alec Ingold. Fullback, yes, it's kind of cheating, but also it's not. He's going to be in the running back category. I've got the Miami Dolphins keeping 6 wide receivers on the roster. And again, granted, I have to go off of what is on the team right now. Me, personally, one of these names, you probably already know what the name is I'm going to refer to. I don't think will be here when the season starts, but we'll get into that in just a moment. So the two obvious ones, Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, probably the fastest wide receiver duo in the NFL and one of the most dangerous. Tyreek Hill can do whatever he wants with the football. Jalen Waddle can do almost the same. He has a few issues with drops every once in a while, but I think that eventually will be cleaned up. And even if not, the plays that he is able to make are plays that Jakeem Grant, as much as I love the guy, were plays that I wish that he was able to accomplish. That makes up for whatever drops he does end up having. Jalen Waddle is fantastic, and he deserves to be on this team, hopefully long term, because he and Tua have a rapport like no one else. Braxton Berrios, the Miami Dolphins went out of their way to sign him. Good returner, good slot guy. I think he's going to make the roster. No-brainer, obviously. Chosen Anderson is a little bit of a misnomer. I'm not sure what to do with him. I think he will make the team simply because you wouldn't sign a veteran and then just kick him to the curb that easily. And besides, he does bring more of that speed that Mike McDaniel covets so much. He's basically Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle insurance at this point, because of all the players on this roster right now, if anybody could replace Tyreek or Jalen Waddle, it would be someone like Chosen Anderson, who also has very similar speed to those guys. They're not the same talent, and don't get me wrong, but Chosen Anderson can still ball if given the opportunity. All he needs is that opportunity. He's back home. He's in Miami. He's where he wants to be. And so I think that will help a lot as far as his overall, just his feel, his personality. I think that's going to help him a lot. Now, for wide receiver 5, I'm going to go ahead and say that Eric Ezukanma makes the team. Not because I think that another team would swipe him if he landed on the practice squad, but simply because I'm buying into what Chris Greer was saying about Eric Ezukanma being a year 2 draft pick. So this is his second year in the offense. He's had a whole year to learn and grow and try to get an idea of what this offense is supposed to be like, get used to running his routes. He's a fantastic playmaker. We all saw it in training camp. We all saw it in preseason. We know what he's capable of if given the opportunity. He just needs to get that technique down, because that's what the Miami Dolphins are really caring about. They want to see that you can run these routes and do the timing that is necessary. I am sure that Wes Welker is working with him very closely, making sure that everything is up to snuff, and I think that this is the year he actually manages to make somewhat of an impact. If something happens to one of the wide receivers, Eric Ezukanma can probably come in and make a big play. And if nothing else, he might be able to play in the slot, kind of in a tight end, Mike Gesicki-ish role, not in the sense that he's a 6'5" body that you just heave it up into the end zone, but just because this guy loves to fight for the football and he loves to make plays, and I think that that's something he could do particularly well if given the opportunity. Finally, wide receiver 6. And ladies and gentlemen, I am staying with it. Cedric Wilson is wide receiver 6. Not in the sense that I think that that's where he's going to land on the depth chart. If he actually makes a team, he's wide receiver 3 in my book. But only in the sense that I'm still not 100% sure he's going to be on the roster, because they might actually have an opportunity to trade him. So, but based on what is on the roster right now, I have to say Cedric Wilson. If you put a gun to my head and say, okay, well, if Cedric Wilson does not make the team and because he got traded, then who's going to take his place? I'll go ahead and say River Craycraft, because he has that familiarity and he's less likely to get swiped than Braylon Sanders at this point, only because Braylon Sanders didn't make that big of a impression during the season. That one drop that he made got a lot of people mad at him, at least in the Dolphins fan base. Other executives might look at him and say, you know what, he's worth a look. But even if that is the case, I'm sure the Dolphins can find another wide receiver somewhere to take his spot. Not that I don't like him, I just think that he's replaceable. River Craycraft, on the other hand, knows the offense up and down. He has a good rapport with Tua, and he's a special teamer who can really get the job done when needed. So I would go ahead and pick River Craycraft over him. But back to the matter at hand, if Cedric Wilson is on this roster, then he's obviously the third running back, and then you'll have Eric Ezukanma as your number 6, which I'm perfectly fine with. Nobody should be sleeping on Cedric Wilson, okay? Nobody. I think he can be really good in this offense if given the chance. Tight end is a very short discussion. Durham Smythe, Eric Saubert, and Tanner Connor. I know that the Miami Dolphins just went out of their way to draft Elijah Higgins out of Stanford. He's a 6'3", 228-pound wide receiver who they listed as a tight end when he was drafted. It's another Tanner Connor situation. He would be the inline tight end. He would basically be the Mike Gesicki guy if push came to shove. But you know what? I think he lands on the practice squad. I don't think he makes the roster, simply because it depends on how quickly he picks up the offense. If he can manage to pick it up really quickly and he proves to grow really quickly in his new role, then maybe he can beat out Tanner Connor. But I'm just assuming that Tanner Connor, who has already been in this offense for a year, is going to have the leg up on him, and he basically plays the exact same role that Elijah Higgins would. As for Durham Smythe and Eric Saubert, they are self-explanatory. They're both blocking tight ends who can sometimes catch the football if necessary. That is literally their role in this offense. Durham Smythe got more snaps than Mike Gesicki last season because he does what the Miami Dolphins offense needs more, which is have the ability to block if needed. And rounding out the offensive side of the ball is obviously everybody's favorite topic, the offensive line. So let's just get our starting 5 guys out of the way, right? These are the obvious ones. Teron Armstead, all-pro left tackle when he's healthy, and even when he's not healthy, he's an all-pro left tackle. You have, at your left guard position, you're going to have Liam Eichenberg, probably. I hope that somebody beats him out. He's got options. Robert Jones could potentially beat him out. By the way, he's going to be on that list as well. Connor Williams is going to be the 4th guy. He's the center. Robert Hunt is number 5. He's the right guard. And more than likely, Austin Jackson is going to be your right tackle. I don't know if anybody beats him out. Hopefully somebody does. Somebody who's not on the roster yet, so I can't list him. Hopefully that happens. Everybody knows who I'm talking about. In case you don't, Cameron Fleming. But he's not on the roster yet, so I can't pick him. So you have 6. So now, who are your last other reserves here? So quite frankly, let me go ahead and give you the list here. So my last 4 offensive linemen, quite frankly, are Kendall Lamb. I think he's going to be the swing tackle, or at least one option to be the swing tackle, either left tackle or right tackle. He filled in very admirably for Teron Armstead during that Patriots game while he had the chance. I think he's a lock to make this team. Dan Feeney, who they signed from the New York Jets, he's going to be the first choice off the bench whenever somebody gets hurt at guard. And then Robert Jones is also going to be competing for a spot. I think that he would be the second choice off the bench simply because he's not quite the veteran that Dan Feeney is. But he can also play right guard, and if push came to shove, he could also probably fill in a tackle. Not well, but he could at least do it if absolutely necessary, a last resort type of thing. So that leaves 2 more. And we're going to go with a couple of rookies. I think Ryan Hayes will make the team simply because he's going to have the opportunity to compete. He was a 7th-round draft pick. They picked him over some of the other guys for a reason. And then finally, Jarrett Horst, who I talked about during a previous show. I think this dude has some Richie Incognito in him. I think that he can be a very good player. There's something about this guy that just seems special. I could be wrong. Maybe some other teams are looking at him and saying he commits too many penalties and that's why he's undraftable. But I think that can be worked out of him. Hopefully Butch Berry can get some discipline in him. I think he could be something special, and who knows, he may actually beat out Liam Eichenberg for the starting guard spot. I would not be even a little bit upset if that happened. So those are my guys on offense. That's 27 in total right now. So 3 quarterbacks, 5 running backs, 6 wide receivers, 3 tight ends, 10 offensive linemen, and a partridge in a pear tree. So we'll get into the defense tomorrow. I just want to go ahead and make sure that I get the offense settled. That's a very interesting list, and honestly, I still think this is not going to be the final roster. I think the Miami Dolphins are not done yet. I think Dalvin Cook is on the horizon, who will replace Savon Ahmed in that spot. I think that we're going to get also Cameron Fleming, who's going to be coming back shortly, and I think that would replace either Ryan Hayes or Jarrett Horst on this list. Hopefully Ryan Hayes. I think that, again, I just think there's something special about Jarrett Horst. As for Cedric Wilson, well, we'll see what happens there. I think they can get maybe like a 5th-round draft pick out of him, and if that does happen, then River Craycraft would take his spot in my mind. So that's it for now. We're going to go ahead and call it here. Thank you all so much for listening. If you have not already done so, make sure you check out U Brake Wheel Fix. They can refinish your wheels to like new if they need to be worked on, if they need to be replaced. You don't need to replace them. U Brake Wheel Fix can refinish them to like new. So if you got yourself some curb rash or if you got some other issue with your wheels, go ahead and check out U Brake Wheel Fix online at ubrakewheelfix.com or reach out to Mark and his staff at 305-748-0112 and start getting an estimate right now. Or if you just want to customize your ride and make it look like the Miami Dolphins car of your dreams, then U Brake Wheel Fix can help you with that too. And of course, head over to prizepicks.com, use the promo code 5, that's FIVE, and they will match up to $100 on your initial deposit when you sign up using that promo code. Again, that's 5, FIVE. Go to prizepicks.com, get started winning today. Tomorrow we'll go over the defensive side of the ball, and for right now, I will see you next time.